situation. Kross has been off TV, Marcus, since Slammiversary when he refused to do the blade job at the show, despite having paramedics on hand. This has been confirmed. There were paramedics on hand, as is required by Texas state law. Apparently, that wasn't good enough for Mr. Kross, and he refused to do the JOB. So they had to go and last minute find some fake blood at their local party city. And they just did a bullshit ending, which we even said at the time. The ending didn't work. We didn't like the ending. Now we know why. So since then he's been off TV, and now Killer Kross has dropped all pretenses, and while he hasn't outright said, release me, he keeps freak tweeting fans who are like, free Killer Kross. Release Killer Kross. Let Killer Kross go. Let my Crossy go. And he's not being subtle about this now. He's claiming that he's upheld all of his ends of the bargains and that it's Impact who's in the wrong. Impact is taking the wrong stance by not commenting on it, because when you allow... See, here's the thing, Marcus. There is an old adage that you let a fire burn out. That usually works if it's a contained fire. You know, if a building, you know, out in the warehouse district where there's not a lot of things it can catch fire on and spread to, if there's no one inside and it's already pretty badly burned, they may just let it burn to the ground. That way they don't have to risk themselves or any of the public utilities putting it out. But when you're in a forest fire situation, you have the entire forest that can catch on fire. And when you're Impact, you're essentially in a forest fire of criticism at all times. Letting a story burn itself out when the person involved in the story keeps perpetuating and circumventing the idea of staying mum, you have to respond publicly. Otherwise, things get fucking crazy. And that's partly what happened over the weekend at the Impact tapings in Las Vegas. A couple of fans. It was a nicely attended event. Don't sit here and think that it was only like a couple dozen people. It was maybe 300 to 400 the first night, 400 to 500 the second night, which is about full capacity for Sam's Town Casino. And a few fans decided to start a Killer Kross chant and a free Killer Kross chant, which is to be expected, as Vegas is Kross's hometown. So he's been retweeting all kinds of things from this, and Impact has stayed mum, and it's been now very clear that Killer Kross is requesting his release despite never actually saying, I want my release. I, for one, would not be retweeting things that said Chad hates NerdCorp if I didn't actually hate NerdCorp. You know what I mean? Like, there's just a thing there. You don't do things you don't want to do. In fact, that's human nature. So, Marcus, I throw to you. Do you think one, Impact staying mum is the right idea? Because I mean, I could be wrong. Or two, and two, do you think Impact should let Killer Kross go?
Yes. Look, they can't really afford. I mean, really no company, but specifically Impact, they can't really afford no negative press.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, they're all not getting the benefit of the doubt in most situations, specifically in a lot of lapsed wrestling fans' minds anyway. So, like you said, it's like, you see this fire burning over here. I know you see it. You just go turn your back and pretend it's not happening. That's cool. But when you turn around, it's nothing but ash. We don't want to hear about the shoulda, woulda, couldas, or the scenario. So yeah, they do need to address stuff. Specifically because we know that there is a definitive chain of command now.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be good to sometimes get ahead of this stuff, as we've seen other companies do before. And as far as letting Killer Kross go, look, man, you don't want to be there, let him go. Don't you want to disgruntled employee? You probably got have assembled one of the best rosters you had in years. And you've had great ones. They've had great ones over the years, but this is a really good one. But if things, have fallen through in terms of, the relationship between him and the company, and just things haven't melted out with those contracts, and they don't see him where he think he should be seen, I would look. Whether it be a relationship, business, whatever have you. If somebody don't want to be there, let them go. Because all they're going to do is make the situation miserable. They're going to be miserable. It's just be a bad situation all around. So I get the business aspect of it, but the quicker you allow him to move on to other pastures, you could, now you have money to put elsewhere. So.
And that seems to be the big issue with all this is they don't want to move on from him, and I feel like this is coming from Ed Nordholm. Part of me thinks it may have been Scott D'Amore, because Scott has kind of had a reputation of being a little hard to deal with at times, especially with the KM situation now kind of spiraled out of control, though KM has now kind of said, he and I are good, we're friends. There's also a rumor, ironically enough, bring up KM, that KM, quote unquote, was the orchestrator behind this, that he was Killer Kross and Scarlet Bordeaux's agent, and that he was purposely damaging the relationship between the pair, the couple, and Impact for his own personal gains. I didn't believe it when I read that. It was so fucking stupid. KM even just said, this isn't fucking true. This is stupid. So if you're reading a rumor that KM is somehow the mastermind behind Killer Kross wanting out of Impact, you're being fed lies. And if you're the one saying it, you're stupid. So that's just a bunch of nonsense. And I agree with you, Marcus. I agree with the basic point of if he doesn't want to be there, let him go. It doesn't do you any good to try to punish this guy because he doesn't want to do business anymore. It makes zero sense. You're trying to be the anti-WWE, but you're acting just like them. I know you're pissed. I know you're... Because I do believe the story. I've talked to a few people, and the notion that he did this day of is something that is very prevalent. That's why there's a lot of animosity. That he ended this whole idea of a First Blood match the day of because he was concerned about a hepatitis outbreak in Indiana while he's in Texas. A hepatitis outbreak, by the way, that is drug-fueled by oxycodone and other prescription drugs. I don't believe Killer Kross has a drug addiction, so I don't believe that he's at risk. So I feel like that was a poor play, and I believe if you just look at kind of the signs, if you look at the tea leaves, I think a lot of this has to do with Kross maybe trying to pull an NFL holdout. I'm not going to blade unless I get paid, kind of situation. And then he's probably, backing up his ideas with the drug outbreak in Indiana being the reason why he doesn't want to blade. Well, there's a hepatitis outbreak in Indiana. Well, okay, but it has nothing to do with pro wrestling. Calm down. So I think he's leveraging for money, and I think that's where a lot of this animosity comes from with Nordholm and upper management and Impact, because otherwise, why would this be a problem? They've let people go before. Scarlet Bordeaux was let go when she didn't want to work it anymore. This isn't a new thing. Just let him go. And I don't say this because I'm such a Killer Kross fan. In fact, I've told you I'm pretty mixed on the guy. I don't think he's as great in the ring as people think he is. I think as a personality, he's fantastic. He delivers amazing promos. But I haven't been impressed with his wrestling.
Yeah, oftentimes people blend the two.
Yeah. So, I don't know, Marcus. I think this is a silly situation, and if Nordholm and Kross acted more like professionals, because, you get, just because you present yourself as this humble, respectful, samurai-esque warrior doesn't mean you are. That's a public persona that you're facilitating. I don't know if that's the truth, and I don't know if Ed Nordholm is exactly the greatest guy in the world. I don't know. What I'm saying is, if there was respectability on both sides, this would not be getting ugly.
Yeah, you're right. And look, if it was close as he said he was, and the man would be getting what he wanted. Mm-hmm. Honestly.
So
that good a friend.
Yeah.
No.
So I think at the end of the day, it just behooves both parties to move on. If he wants to sign, a shitty NXT deal, let him. It's fine. He'll be buried as fast as everyone else on that brand. And let's be honest, looking at AEW, it's not exactly like they know what the fuck they're doing anymore, because goddamn.
Look, if he thinks Impact don't know his worth and he knows it better than they do, then Impact should, be like, okay, cool, let you go out here and prove it. If you know your worth, you'll get it. And if not, well, we'll see you down that road or whatever. But kind of leave the door open. But again, we don't. He's asking for extra money. I mean, for more money. Obviously, like I said, we don't really know in depth about these guys' personal lives and what have you. And if they don't want to facilitate him, getting that uptick in revenue, just let the man go. Because it's not like you're going to hold him and he's just going to change his mind overnight. You like, well, they must really believe in me if they're holding me like this. No.
He's
not going to come around. That's not going to happen. That's not how that works. So, I mean, Scarlett's gone and he wants out like the two great personalities. Neither one blew anybody away in the ring, I don't think. he was impressive in the ring, but nothing that blew my socks off or anything. And but as a personality, which is rare these days, he was ahead of a lot of people. But again, Impact doesn't have a lot of time or money to be wasting, especially since apparently now they're tipping the bill on the road with stuff, which I guess is an improvement. Well, definitely an improvement from years past, since feel like it's taken years for us to get cash flow positive over there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, just let the man move on and everybody be happy. You won't have to worry about, tweets and this, that, and the third, and people going to interviews, and nobody wants a Leo Rush situation.
No, and that's the perfect kind of one-to-one comparison. It doesn't make any sense. You know, if you gain there's nothing to gain from this besides that sweet, sweet, bitter taste of revenge. Because if you don't let Killer Kross go amicably, then wrestlers are going to see this and going to be less inclined to sign. Now you got guys like the Rascals and Sammy Callahan and Brian Cage and Melissa Santos and Ethan Page all championing Impact, Tessa Blanchard. But it seems like, especially in today's narrative, where negativity is the the forefront runner in every horse race to win. One negative issue against a sea of positives is all it takes to tip a company over. Tipple. What the fuck was I trying to say? Topple and tip. But what are you gonna do? So it's kind of just come down to this idea that if you fuck around, people are gonna see this and take it to heart. So don't fuck around. It's really not a hard concept, personally. But then again, Impact also has a lot of other things to work on, which will be the subject of a column coming out tomorrow. I'm not going to have top 10 or whatever, but I do have some ideas on how they can improve their stuff, because I was watching an episode of Explosion last night, Marcus. And I'll tell you what, the first 20 minutes of it were fantastic. Got to see Ryan beat up Bhupinder Singh, who actually just got released from the company at his own risk. See, Bhupinder Singh, he wanted out of the company. They gave him his release. How is that hard? But he lost to Rhino in a nice little squash match, and then it was not really a squash match. It was like 7 minutes long. Then they did this interview segment. While I'm not a fan of the guy, Michael Elgin, Josh Matthews and Elgin played a game of Pig, which is a 3-letter version of horse, where they were taking shots and having a casual conversation. And I was like, that's actually pretty cool. That's a nice little way of doing an interview on a TV show. And then the rest of it was just highlights and recaps, like Big Mommy and Taya, and they had Rob Van Dam and Sabu from Hardcore Justice 2010. So, like, it wasn't all great, but like the first 20 minutes was awesome. And if they focused more on that kind of stuff and actually promoted Explosion, I'd remember to watch more often. But that's just how it is. But that being said, Marcus, Impact is in a nice place. Bound Glory is set. Thankfully, they're not putting Tessa Blanchard in the main event of Bound Glory, which was going to be a big concern for me. And not to say the Bound Glory main event was the issue, but it was for the title that I was worried about, because I'm not a fan of intergender wrestling. But officially, it's going to be Brian Cage v. Sammy Callahan for the title. So, if you wanted to see a 5'5" white dude from Ohio win the world title, not named Chad Porto, Marcus, you can finally get your wish.
Man, I love Tessa, but I just prefer to see something else. And I know everybody's not a big Sammy Callahan fan. He is one of the best things going in the business right now.
Yep.
Specifically on consistency. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm a big fan of Cage. Glad he finally got the win in terms of world title. But I mentioned this before to you, and like, I think his reign will end up being, basically the world champion that was always waiting to be cleared. It feels like.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and hopefully maybe he'll get a second shot at it. But I think a lot of that's gonna come with being in the chase, and somebody like Callahan to have the title, specifically with OVE around him. I think it's gonna also change the title. I think put a little bit more excitement back in the main event and a spark on that show that they really need right now, because he's unfortunately become an unwilling Brock Lesnar stunt double in terms of his appearance on the show.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. And the thing with that is Cage is somewhat cleared to wrestle. Apparently, the Elgin Cage match at Slammiversary was something that I don't think the doctors were too fond of him doing, because all of his matches since then have been either tag matches and I think one was technically both, a a street brawl essentially for Joey Ryan's bar wrestling bar or wrestle bar or whatever it's called, bar wrestling, which is an event that doesn't have a ring, so there's no back bumps to worry about. And those are really the only matches he's wrestled since. So clearly, he still has back injuries and back issues that he's dealing with. So I expect fully to see Sami Callihan walk away with the belt. And it looks like they're doing something with Daga and his girlfriend Tessa Blanchard, or Tessa Blanchard's boyfriend Daga. I don't care how you phrase it. Where they're going to be in some kind of mixed gender tag match, be it against OVE or maybe for the titles against the North. I don't know. I could see them doing Daga and Tessa versus the North, though. I could see that. I don't want to see that, but I could see that. I'd rather see the Rascals against the North again, but that's just me. I like the Rascals. They're fun.